23rd of September 2025 in Bahrain. And this is part 2 of Material Spiritual Balance. Yesterday, we looked at having all aspects of our life become spiritually enlivening. Does anyone remember the 2 main points from yesterday? This world is a place of service, and we are servants. So if we're always thinking that, do anyone remember the points from the letter Prabhupada wrote to Jayapataka Maharaj? Anybody remember the points? Everything's part of Krishna's plan. Whatever is meant to be, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that. Next thing. Excellent. Full attention to every detail. And next thing. Absorbed in it and without being distracted by other things. And last point was? Yes, to just my desire just to please Krishna. Yes. So everything, every place, everyone we're with is an opportunity for service. And we are servants. And if we see everything as an opportunity for service, and if we always see our identity as a servant, remember we talked about the secret agent principle, right? That I'm actually just a servant of Krishna, and I have some service to do here. Then everything is spiritually connected. And then we won't be in Maya. All right, so that was the positive, and today we're going to look at how to deal with the negative stuff. What about our struggles with illusion? So Maya is Krishna's energy. Devi Esha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Durachaya. Dura means difficult. Even though we are souls, part of Krishna, Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, even though we have the qualities of Krishna, still we cannot, on our own account, get out of Maya. Just like if you want to think of a prison house, so a human being can manipulate construction materials. However, when the government constructs a prison house with bricks and barbed wire, then you can't get out, even though the soul is higher and more powerful than matter. When it's done by the government, you're restricted. And we see that it's very difficult to remember that I'm not this body. Srila Prabhupada once asked the devotees, how do you start preaching? What's the first thing you say when you're preaching to someone? And they said, we tell them that there is God. Prabhupada said, no, first you should preach that you're a soul, that you're a spiritual being. So we all know this theoretically. Najayate mriyate valkadachid nayam bhutva bhavitava nabuya ajo nicha sasvato yam prano nahanyate hanyamane shrire. We all know these slokas. First thing you learn when you come to the Hare Krishna movement is you're not that body. But going through our day, it's hard to remember that, isn't it? It kind of feels like I am this body. And we tend to be absorbed like that, in that kind of an identity. Or I am this mind. I am this personality in this life. We were talking yesterday about our various identities. And seeing the world and this life without relationship to Krishna. How do we get out of that negativity? That I'm seeing things separately from Krishna. I'm seeing, Krishna's far away, he has nothing to do with anything. So the cause of our identifying with this body, the cause of our seeing things separately from Krishna, is ultimately our own desire to do so. Srila Prabhupada says that the unfortunate materialistic person can get out of illusion simply by desiring to do so. But that doesn't mean that you can just sit down and say, well, I desire to be out of illusion. I'm sure we've all tried that. And we could compare it materially. If someone says, I want to be a medical doctor, that's good, but that desire has to be shown in behavior. If you really desire to be a medical doctor, it's a long, hard road to doing so, isn't it? It's not something easy that you're going to do in a day or in a minute. So when we say that it's all based on desire, that's true, but it's desire that manifests in action. And as we talked about yesterday, which is going to be the main topic of our conversation and our class today, is that although nothing is material to the spiritually enlightened being, everything is spiritual, everything is part of Krishna's energy, there are certain behaviors and certain ways of acting in this world that help us to see the spiritual. That we'll talk about tomorrow and the next day. So Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to talk about what kind of positive activities to do. Wednesday, we're going to look at primarily our sadhana, and Thursday, we're going to look at our whole life, how to see Krishna everywhere. And there are also certain things that make it very, very difficult to see the world as service and ourself as a servant. Now, those are especially, of course, the four sinful activities that Srila Prabhupada asks us to give up: intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, and gambling. And as we talked about yesterday, there's nothing wrong with dead animals. That's just part of nature, that everybody dies. Animals die also. The problem is when you want to eat them. That's the problem. When you kill them to eat them, that creates a problem. There's nothing wrong with rotting barley and rotting potatoes. You put it in the earth, it will grow new plants. But if you ingest it, then it bewilders our intelligence. There's nothing wrong with biological reproduction at all. But if you engage in that in a way outside of marriage and you produce unwanted children and so much disease, it becomes a completely disruptive element in society, and plus it also diminishes our capacity for higher consciousness. And in gambling means I'm trying to make a lot of money very fast at others' expense without an exchange of goods or services. It fosters a cheating mentality. So all of those things put us into the lower modes of nature. And when we're in the lower modes of nature, then our heart cannot be soft and liquid. Our heart becomes hard. It becomes, like the Bhagavatam says, steel-framed. I couldn't find a steel frame, so I have a rock frame and an ice frame in the picture. But our heart becomes like that, like a rock or like ice towards Krishna. So we have to ask this question: why would somebody, I'm assuming that all of you here or anyone listening online or listening online in the future, that you have some desire, we all have some desire for spirituality, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be here, you'd be doing something else. At the same time, we find ourselves doing things that push us into tamagun or rajagun. Even if we're following those four rules, there may be other things. Ways of thinking, please put your phones on silent. Ways of thinking, ways of acting, ways of talking, ways of eating, things that we watch, things we talk about, things we absorb ourselves in, that make it extremely difficult to see this world as Krishna's energy and to see our place here as a servant with service to do. Am I correct? And Arjuna had this problem. Arjuna asked this question. When I first read the Bhagavad Gita, I was 17, I was in university, and I was drinking it. Like there's a statement in the Bhagavatam, Pivanti e Bhagavat Atmanasatam, one should drink the Bhagavatam. That doesn't mean you put the book in your blender. But it means that you're hearing it or you're reading it as if you're drinking something wonderful, as if it's an elixir. So I was like that with the Bhagavad Gita. I was like drinking it. I actually didn't go to classes for a few days, and I hardly ate and slept. I was just reading the Bhagavad Gita. And I got to this question of Arjuna's in the 3rd chapter, and in that particular printing, it was at the bottom of the right-hand page, where Arjuna says, why is it that we do things that are wrong, as if we're being forced, as if it's against our will? And the answer was on the next page. I had to turn the page to see the answer. And I remember thinking, I've been wondering this my whole life. I mean, even if we want to think in terms of ordinary life, nobody wants to be overweight, and yet we'll eat more than we need. And we know that. We're sitting there thinking, I really shouldn't eat this extra laddu. And we eat it anyway. And we get pleasure from it for 3-4 minutes. And then we're like, oh, I ate too much. And then we stand on the scale and say, now I weigh too much. And then we think, next time I won't eat any laddus. And the next time again we eat 2 or 3. So why do we do this? And we tell ourselves, you know, when my spouse does something I don't like, I'm going to be compassionate, I'm going to be loving, I'm going to be understanding, and then we yell at them. And we say, why did I do that? You know? Or you think, okay, I have to just go on this platform and post a message, and then 20 minutes later we're just scrolling and saying, what am I doing? And why did I do that? Correct? Yes? Or maybe for some of us more serious things. But things, you know, whether they're small things or they're big things. This is the question. It's like I'm doing things against my own desires. It's very peculiar. We'll say, okay, I want to be fit, I want to be healthy, I want to exercise, and then the time comes and we don't do it. We're like, why am I acting against my own self-interest? So this is true in ordinary life, but it's also true in spiritual life. That we think, okay, this is what I'm going to do for my spiritual life. I'm going to read Shastra, and then a week goes by, we haven't read Shastra. And again, we say, why am I doing this? Or I'm going to chant with attention. And after, you know, one round with attention, then our mind is all over the universe. Or we're doing something distracting while we're chanting. Why am I doing this? So this is the question. And, you know, Krishna in the Gita says it's just your kama, it's just your lust. That our desire is impure. We have these mixed desires. So we're saying, yes, Krishna, I desire you, but I also desire other things as well. That's the problem. And so therefore we end up doing things, watching things, eating things, reading things, thinking about things that take us away from our goals. So why does that happen? Well, one thing, let's look first at outside influences. So it may be the people that we work with. Maybe people at work induce us to do things, talk about things, see things, meditate on things that are opposed to our spiritual desires. Maybe it's our family. Maybe our family are not so serious, they're pressuring us, they're a bad influence on us. This is a big one. You know, we want our children to be Krishna conscious, and yet we may be pressuring them in an imbalanced way. So one 12-year-old in Muscat He was asking in the class, he said, "Can you tell my parents that marks are not so important?" And I said, "Well, they're important, but they're not the only thing that's important. If your whole life is about getting good marks, that's an unbalanced life. Life is not just about getting money or getting good marks. It's also about exercise. It's also about healthy eating. It's also about healthy social interactions. What to speak that it's also about our spiritual life. You know, we don't want, we're going to talk about this some more also tomorrow. We don't want an unbalanced life. So sometimes it may be family members pushing us to have an unbalanced life. But we have no time for our spirituality, no energy for our spirituality. If we're going to school, it may be the other students at school that are pushing us to do things against our spiritual desires. Or it may be our friends, and it may even be our devotee friends. Maybe our devotee friends are just gossiping, just talking about this politics and ISKCON and this. You know, one thing I really liked about teaching little children. So for 5 years, I was running a school that I was also teaching in full-time of children just aged 2 to 5. And what I liked about it the most is that I could just talk about Krishna. You know, you're working with little children and you're going, then early in the morning, Krishna blows his buffalo horn, ooh, and then he takes the cows. You could just talk about Krishna for hours. And they're calling into the well, hello, and the echo comes back, hello, hello, and then they say, you stupid well. And as they're playing in the forest, then, uh-oh, there's Agasura. My name is Agasura. I'm fat and round. But I've never been able to really talk like that to adults, you know. And so sometimes even with the adults in the Hare Krishna movement, if you go up to them and say, so what is Krishna doing today? They'll look at you like you're from Mars or something. So sometimes even our friends, even among the devotees, they're pulling us away from what we want to do. And then there's our own mind. So even if we don't have trouble with coworkers, with families, with other students, with our friends, we have our own mind. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, my mind is not a Vaishnava. And my own mind will go, oh, you can just stay up another hour. It's all right. You can eat 3 more laddus. You can skip another day of reading. It's okay. No, you'll make it up tomorrow. You'll get it together at some point. So we have our mind also is actually can be our worst enemy, isn't it? Yeah. All right. So these are the problems. The problem is ultimately our own mixed desire, which pushes us under the lower modes. And we get sucked into this by other people or by our own mind. So we're going to look at what are keys to dealing with this. We're going to look at a number of solutions from the most spiritual to the most kind of basic solutions. So the best ultimate solution is good sadhu sangha. Because remember, we looked at a lot of times these problems come from other people in our life. That in order to try to please other people and be with other people, we'll compromise our own ideals. Or even from ourselves. So we want to have sadhu sangha. Now that also implies that we should all be sadhus. That I want to be good association for others as well. So So, of course, Srila Rupa Goswami gives various types of sadhu sangha, both in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and in his Upadesh Amrita. So he talks about very high levels of sadhu sangha, those who have faith in Shastra and knowledge of Shastra, those who see everybody as a devotee, those who are undeviated in devotional service and are free from even the tendency to envy. And for such people, we should try to serve them. And then those people with whom we should make friendship are those who are on the middle platform, those people who have strong faith in Shastra, even though they may not be able to convince others, those who have love for God, make friends with the devotees, help the innocent and avoid the atheists, or those who've taken initiation and they're engaged in worshiping the deity. And then we help those who are on a lower platform, those who are just starting to chant, those who don't know much about the Shastra, or those who just see Krishna consciousness in the temple, which is what we talked about yesterday. So according to our own position, we're going to associate appropriately, and we want to associate through exchange of gifts, giving and receiving gifts, giving and receiving prasadam, and giving and receiving confidential talks. And in each case, these should be for the benefit of the others. For the benefit of the others. When I give people gifts, I should do my best to try to give gifts that people will really like and appreciate. Yes? And when I receive gifts, I should be appreciative, even if the other person didn't think of what I would like and appreciate. I should try to give prasadam that people like, in quantities they like, of the types they like. And I should receive prasadam with gratitude, even if people aren't giving me the types and quantities that I like. When I reveal my mind in confidence, when I reveal the inner parts of my mind, I should try to do that in a way that will benefit others, not just using others as a garbage can for all the trash in my mind. And when I'm hearing other people, even if they're trying to use me as a garbage dump, then I should still be compassionate, and I should try to find their desire for Krishna underneath all of the rubbish. So one should associate with devotees also in the mission. Srila Prabhupada talks about how we can get free of lust is to use our desires in the mission. That same exuberance with which people pursue sense gratification in this world and material objectives, we can use in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. And spreading Krishna consciousness, it's an unlimited field. And there's as many things as you can do as there are talents and people. So we should all encourage each other to take some responsibility in the mission. And when we have something we're doing that's enlivening and exciting for us, then it's very, very easy to say no to the types of activities and mentality that have us forget Krishna. We said, no, I have something more important to do. The next thing is to work on our identity. And we talked about this a lot yesterday. This is an ultimate cure. Why would I be working for the pleasure of this body and mind if it's not me? If it's not me. I'm going to leave this body behind. We all know that. Of course, we don't believe that it's really going to happen to us. But we all know that. Yes, we have to take care of the body, and it belongs to Krishna. But if my main emphasis is on making my body happy, I'm working for something I'm not even going to keep. In the early days of the Hare Krishna movement, at our temples, we used to do little philosophical plays, dramas, every Sunday, and sometimes we would do these out on the street. And there was one of them that I remember at the time when I was very new in the movement, I didn't really understand. And it was called The Wrong Bank Account. So you all may know that you can't take money out of someone else's bank account, but you can put money into someone else's bank account. If you know the routing number and the account number and the name of the bank, you can go to someone's bank and deposit money. Everybody knows this? Yes? But you can't take it out. Okay, so there was this one man that was working, and he was very responsible, and he thought, I want to make sure that I save money regularly. So every time he got paid, he went to the bank, and he put some of his paycheck into the bank. Then it came time to retire, and he goes to take out the money, and there's no money in his account. He had one number wrong, and he was putting it all into the wrong bank account. Krishna says, Yam yam bapi swaram bhavam twajachante kalevaram tam tam evaitikantaya saratad bhava bhavita. Our next life is determined by what we think about. Everything we think about, everything we talk about, everything we see, everything we eat, everything we do is investing money into an account. And if all of that's going to the body, guess what? That doesn't come with us. Our bodies, our homes, our relationships. When Maharaj Chitraketu's son died, Narada Muni and Angira Muni, they brought the son temporarily back to the body. And they said, just see, your mother and father are crying. And then the boy said, who? I've had so many mothers and fathers and so many lives. Which of these people here are my mothers and fathers? We have forgotten our relationships of our previous lives, haven't we? Right? I was recently talking about someone who does remember his previous lives, and he remembers in his previous life he was a great king. And that was 1,000 years ago. And children are still reading about his activities in their history books. But what good does that do him now? You understand? It doesn't do him any good. What's he going to do? Walk in the school and say, yeah, I was that guy? Nobody will care. They'll just think he's a crazy fellow. What good does it do? Even if you could remember, there's some statue of you from another life in the park. But usually we don't even remember. We can be walking past our own statue in the park from another life. Right? I once saw this little comedy skit of this black man in America, and he was saying it's a real problem for black people in America to believe in reincarnation, because maybe in our other life we were the white slave owner who was oppressing the black person. He said, maybe the people that we're protesting against were ourselves in another life. So, we're investing so much in our home, our family, our career, our education. It's not that those things are not important, but they're not the important thing. And as long as we're identifying that way, then we're going to act according to that. Then I'm going to spend my time, my energy, doing things that are according to that identity. I'll forget that I'm a secret agent. So we want to always remember, I'm Krishna's secret agent. I'm going to be a good son and a good wife and a good banker as my cover story to give me an opportunity to please Krishna. And I'm going to try to please Krishna through my service to my parents and my wife and my boss and my clients and my patients. But I'm not going to think this is me. The next thing is we want to get the real taste. Srila Prabhupada writes in the preface to the Nectar of Devotion that everything we're doing is to get some rasa. Now, my dear friends, this is a very, very difficult concept to accept. It's a very difficult concept to accept. But once we accept us, it gives us the ability to make the choices that will really benefit us. See, the way we see the world is the way Arjuna talked about it. Why am I doing things I don't want to do as if someone else is forcing me? Isn't that what he asked? I don't actually want to do this, he's saying. I feel like I'm being forced. Krishna's response was, no, it's you who really wants to do this. There's no one else forcing you. It's your own desire. All the things we do that distract us from Krishna, that take us away from Krishna, are things we want to do because we think we're getting some kind of pleasure out of them. As I say, this is a very hard thing to admit. We don't want to admit that things that harm us, we're doing to try to get some sort of pleasure out of it. And you know, there's different rasas. There's even a rasa of anger. There's a rasa of lamentation. There's a rasa of fear. And if you say, well, how are those enjoyable? So I always give the example that there are sad movies. People pay money to watch a sad movie. I mean, it seems contradictory. You know, when you're a little kid, you learn these are the opposites. Happy, sad. If I'm sad, I'm not happy. Right? So why are people paying money to become sad? And you say to them, was it a good movie? And they go, oh, it's a great movie. Because there's some pleasure in sadness. Or fear. People do extreme sports, or they ride on amusement park rides where they become frightened. They intentionally become frightened. That's also a rasa. There's some pleasure in that. There's pleasure in anger. It's why people watch sporting events. You're watching sporting events, you're not getting any exercise. You're just watching it. Why are you watching it? To be angry, actually. Why did they fumble the ball? People are at these events just screaming, correct? Yes? Why? There's some pleasure in that. Or disgust. You can try this sometime. You say to someone, oh my God, that's disgusting. They'll say, what? You know? A lot of our interest in politics is to enjoy disgust and anger. So what's motivating us is trying to enjoy something. And if we can identify what it is I'm trying to enjoy, then we can look for that spiritually. Krishna is Akila Rasamrita Murti. He is the form of all pleasures. And the problem with material rasas is that they don't satisfy us. And we can analyze in depth why they don't satisfy us. They're temporary. We usually have to pay for them in some way. So there's some misery associated with them. Sometimes we have to pay to them before we enjoy them and after we enjoy them. Right? You have to pay for food before you can eat it. Either you have to grow the food or you have to work to spend the money to buy the food. And then if you eat the wrong kind of food or too much food, then you feel some distress afterward. It's like a misery sandwich, you know. And ultimately, these pleasures don't touch the real self. They're like pleasures in a dream, that we don't actually enjoy them. So we should look for the real thing. Whatever I'm enjoying, look for the real thing. And this principle applies even to things like lamentation and anger and bitterness and things like that, that we convince ourselves are not really pleasurable. Whatever we're absorbed in, there's a spiritual equivalent. There's a spiritual equivalent. Okay? So let's say there was, when COVID started, when the pandemic started, there was one lady I knew whose husband was stuck in a foreign country, you know, and they closed the borders and he couldn't get home. It took him eventually, but it took him a long time to get home. So she was in grief, missing him. And she was saying, this grief is impeding my thinking of Krishna. I'm just always in this sadness and fear. And I said, okay, well, let's meditate on the reality of that. I said, can you think, and the trick of this, in order to do this thing I'm teaching you right now, you have to know the Shastra, you You have to know the Shastra or this won't work. And you have to choose a devotee. Don't choose a demon. Those are the two things. So I said, is there some devotee in the Shastra that you can think of? And we came up with Rohini. That Rohini in Vrindavan, she was separated from her husband, Vasudeva. She's raising Balaram as a single parent, basically. And that certainly during that, maybe she wrote letters to Vasudeva. Maybe they were writing letters back and forth. But still, you know, she's raising Balaram, and she's got the Supreme Lord as her child, but still she's separated from her husband. And I'm sure she's thinking, oh, I wish Vasudeva could see him getting his first tooth. I wish Vasudeva could see him crawling. And as we started meditating more and more and more on Rohini, we started feeling her emotions. This is a technique given by Srila Rupa Goswami in the fifth wave of the Southern Ocean of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So as we started really meditating on these emotions of Rohini, then this lady, she started feeling some of those spiritual emotions. And the spiritual emotions are so tasty that the material emotions just fade away. So if we see, what am I trying to enjoy by watching this thing, by eating this thing, by talking about this thing, whatever is pulling us away from Krishna, what am I trying to enjoy there? How can I find that in Krishna? How can I find that in Krishna consciousness? Another technique is detachment. So what we've talked about so far is attachment. Attachment through the devotees, attachment through our real identity, attachment through finding a higher taste. But we also want to work on detachment. So one of my favorite quotes, I quote it all the time, Bhagavad Gita 14:22, about being above the modes of nature, getting out of tamagun, rajagun, and even sattvagun. Krishna says, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they appear, nor long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all of these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral, knowing that the modes alone are active. Now, this technique is also used by anyone on any genuine spiritual path. And this particular technique is actually becoming quite popular in the world. Unfortunately, usually with a Buddhist twist to it. But this concept that I am the observer, something that Krishna talks about in the 5th and 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I'm the observer. These interactions of the modes are not me. So when tamagun affects us, and we just get bitter and sad and depressed and lethargic, and we just really don't care what we eat and what we do and what we look at and what we see. Or when Rajagun is affecting us and we think, let me be a big person in the world and get my statue in the park, and let me impress everybody and let me run the whole world. Or when Sattvagun affects us and we're thinking, you know, I'm a really spiritual advanced person. You know, when all these different things affect us, that we're able to step back and say, I am not this. I am not this. And just observe them, not try to stop them. Materialists make the mistake of identifying with them and allowing these sattva, rajas, and tamas to control them. And beginning spiritualists make the mistake of trying to conquer them and kill them. Devi Esha, they're Krishna's energy. No way you're going to kill the modes of nature, folks. Not going to happen. And that's not what Krishna says to do. He says, don't hate them or desire them. Don't hate tamagun, don't desire sattvagun. Just step back and observe them. Oh, the modes are happening. That may be allowing some reaction in your body and in your mind, but not identifying with it. Just like if you're walking down the street and some very noisy vehicle goes past you, or you're walking past some construction site. It's so noisy that if you're having a conversation with another person, you have to pause your conversation while the noisy vehicle passes or while you pass the construction. So one may sometimes have to wait until these things pass through the body and the mind, but not identify with them. When a couple years ago, my 24-year-old grandson got in an accident, in a motorcycle car accident, and he was in a coma for 6 days, and we didn't know if he was going to live or die, and if he lived, we didn't know if he'd be, paralyzed or brain dead. And so my body and mind were overwhelmed with grief. And then when he died, it was a very intense thing. But I just let it be there in my body and mind. I didn't try to make the grief go away. But nor did I identify with it. But I just let it be. And all right, this is a tragedy. There's going to be some grief. There's going to be some emotional turmoil in the body. But it's not me. And after some time, it left. I still miss him, but I'm not grieving. So just to step back and say, okay, this is happening. There's some chemical reaction in the body and the modes of nature, but I don't have to act on it, and I don't have to kill it. As I say, the materialistic thing is I have to act on it. And the mistaken beginner's spiritual idea is I have to kill it. I have to repress it. I have to pretend it's not there. So therefore, Krishna says, one who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they appear, or long for them when they disappear, always remaining neutral and knowing that the modes alone are active. When Duryodhana insulted and threatened Vidura, that pierced his heart. It pierced his heart. And Krishna says to Uddhava in the 11th canto that even a sadhu is going to have difficulty to reassemble his mind after being affected by the words of uncivilized persons. But Vidura stepped back and thought, on Duryodhana's controlled by the material energy. But there's some service for me to do here as a servant. So although it affected him physiologically, it affected him psychologically, he was able to step back and say, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, this is the working of the modes of nature, and there's some service for me to do here as a servant. He didn't try to stop the churning in his mind. The same with Jadabharata, when Rahugana insulted him. He ignored the waves of dissatisfaction that were going through his body and mind. He didn't try to repress them, and he didn't try to act on them. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 270, have it be like rivers entering into the ocean, which is always being filled, but yet is still. We're not trying to stop the rivers. We don't hate the rivers, nor do we jump into them and swim in them. We let things go on and see, I have nothing to do with this. So that is another technique of detachment. I do not have to jump in and do whatever my mind or my friends are telling me to do, nor do I have to hate my mind and my friends. Another technique, train an incompatible behavior. If you're struggling with certain behaviors that take you away from your spiritual desires, train yourself to do something else that makes that bad behavior impossible. Like my youngest son and his wife, they don't want their kids to spend too much time just on screens, computers, phones, tablets. So what they do is they have their kids involved in a lot of activities out of the house that keep them very busy in something positive. Now, they also regulate their screen time, but they don't even have that much time for screen time. You follow? Because they're busy with something positive. Think of positive things you can do. What can you get involved with where you won't be able to do the things that are harmful for you? In order to do that, one thing that you may find helpful, especially if it's a behavior that you're doing regularly as a habit, is to think of what is the reward, again, what rasa am I trying to enjoy, and what is the cue for this? What triggers my doing this bad habit? Am I doing this bad habit when I'm tired, when I'm lonely, when I'm upset? And what reward am I trying to get from this bad habit? Could I use this cue to build a new habit? Another technique is to reward the absence of the behavior. Like if your kids are fighting, one thing you can do is whenever they're not fighting, you can praise them. Often we forget to do this. We just get on our case when we're doing the wrong thing, and we forget to reward ourselves when we're not doing the wrong thing. Oh, well, I went for a week without spacing out on social media, or I went for a day, or whatever. And you can go, yay me. Pretend you're somebody else. And you would say to someone else, well, that's great. So say to yourself, well, that's great. I'm so glad you did that. And remember to reward baby steps. I talk about this all the time, how Prabhupada compares bhakti to learning how to walk. The only way babies learn how to walk is they celebrate their accomplishments and they ignore their difficulties. Babies are not discouraged by how many times they fall down. They celebrate every little bit of progress. So one technique is focus on any little bit of progress. Wow, I chanted 5 rounds with attention today. I didn't space out on social media. I ate just what I needed to eat. I didn't get pulled into gossip. Whatever. Celebrate the things you do right. Even if it's just in your mind going, yes, I did that right. And the way that we're designed is we'll keep wanting to do things that give us a reward. Now, a very unusual technique perhaps, but one that Krishna uses, is to put the bad behavior on cue. Just like in a school, we have times when the children can run and scream. We don't just tell to them, you can't run and scream. We say, okay, now it's recess time, you can run and scream. Correct? Yes? Yes? So in the Shastra, Krishna has certain times and circumstances where you're allowed to do things that are materialistic, with the idea that then you'll only do them at that time and you'll gradually decrease. So I know of some couples that were arguing a lot and they made an arguing time. They said, okay, we have to save all our arguments for between 5 and 6 at night. And then when 5 o'clock, they had to actually sit down and think, is there anything I want to argue about? It was very, very effective. Gradually, they argued less and less and less. But they knew if there's something upsetting me, I have a time I can deal with it. So you can also say that to your mind. You can say, all right, look, if you want to space out, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you 10 minutes of space out time. Right now, I want you to sit down and chant, okay? Okay, my dear mind? Right now, sit down and chant. And I'm going to give you from 6 to 6:15, you can space out. And then the mind will say, okay, I know I have my space out time. Or you can say, okay, you're going to follow a diet 6 days a week, but on every Sunday you can eat a dessert. And then the mind is going, I want that now, you can have it on Sunday. I was reading about this one Christian monastery where the monks took vows of silence, except for 2 hours on Saturday. And for 2 hours on Saturday, they would go outside and play games and talk to each other. So this can be also very effective. And then gradually, you give the cue less and less often and for shorter and shorter amounts of time. Another technique that's taught by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is to take a vow. So you can start with taking a vow for 3 days. Okay, for the next 3 days, I'm going to read every day, or I'm not going to gossip, or whatever it is you're dealing with. And then at the end of 3 days, evaluate it and say, well, how did that work out? Did I like it? Did I not like it? Was it easy? Was it hard? Was I able to do it? And say, if it was pretty easy and I could do it, then when am I going to take a vow for maybe another week or 2 weeks? And then again, evaluate. And then again, at the end of that time, you say, well, did I like it? Was I happy with it? Was this something I could do? And then you could take a vow for a month, whatever it is that you're dealing with. You know, you might say, well, I'm not going to read the news till after I finish my rounds. That's both a vow and putting the behavior on cue. You follow? Yes? And then you see, do I like that? Was that good? So that can be very, very effective. And then sometimes after a while, the thing you're trying to change just becomes a part of your life. And you don't need to take vows anymore. Another thing, and this is related to the absence of the behavior, is to track your progress. So I know of many people who do this. Keep some kind of a chart. How am I doing? And don't measure too many things at once. So I was dealing with one devotee who was really struggling to chant japa. Really, really struggling to chant japa. And I said, let's start with 2 rounds a day. And what I actually told him is I said, why don't you say you're not allowed to chant more than 2 rounds a day? So that way, chanting 2 rounds is an accomplishment rather than a failure. Do you follow what I'm saying? Yes? I said, you can chant more, but not counting. Yeah? And then we focused on quality. We ended up focusing on speed because he was chanting very slowly. We focused on setting a sankalpa. We had different things we were focusing on. He kept a chart. And I said, okay, after 10 days, share your chart with me. Let me know your progress. And we'll look at it and see. And he said, okay, this stuff was great. This stuff really didn't work for me, and we'll adjust like that. And then we did it for another 10 days. And after doing this, I think 3 or 4 times, he's like, can I chant more now? Chanting had gone from being a burden that he was struggling with to something that he was looking forward to do. So keep track of your progress. And you can do this with accountability buddies. So I know a lot of people that do this kind of thing. They join some reading group, right? Vaisheshika Prabhu has a lot of this going on, where people join reading groups and together they read a certain number of pages every day, and they may read it together and they track their progress. So that can be very enlivening. Some kind of tracking progress. And if you need to do that or want to do that with other people, then that can be an additional boost. Or someone even once a week that you share your progress with. Okay, then there's a destroy the situation. So you can do this in a very mild form by setting up what we call friction. So like on my phone, I have certain apps that they're not accessible at certain times of the day. I can only access them at certain times. Now, I can override it, but it's setting up a little friction. You follow? Or I'll go for a walk and I leave my phone at home. I don't take it with me. That's a lot of friction, you know. I can't even get to it. Or one thing I did for a good friend of mine is I showed her how to turn off the sound notifications on her phone. She said, changed her whole life. I said, you know, you can have silent notifications. And she's like, wow, the whole quality of my life just markedly improved. So sometimes things like that, you know, don't keep sweets in your refrigerator. To set up something where you adjust the situation itself. You're not making it impossible, but you're making it harder. You're making your Krishna consciousness easier, and you're making the things that impede your spiritual life harder. Now that's on a small level of looking at the situation, but you can also make huge changes in your situation. You can change your ashram. You can get married. Or you can become a renunciate. You can move to a different place. You can change careers. So that is sometimes another solution. Of course, when you do a major change like that, there may also be a major price. It's like if your house is dirty, you can sell your house, but then you don't have a house. So you don't have a dirty house, but you don't have a house either. So just keep in mind that big changes do work, but they all have a high price. And finally, you can just be patient. If we are sincere in the process of bhakti, our attachments will eventually go away. Sometimes with some things that we struggle with for years and years and years and years and years, eventually they'll just go away by our process of purification if we're sincerely in the process. And so sometimes it's just a question of being patient. And saying, Krishna, I know that someday you'll deliver me from this problem. So we looked at having good association, having sadhu sangha, focusing on the fact that we have a spiritual identity, getting a higher taste, getting the real rasa, getting detached from the modes, having spiritual hobbies and recreation that are incompatible with whatever bad habits we have, forming new habits, rewarding small steps, putting our problem on cue, taking vows, charting our progress and having buddies, destroying the situation either in a minor way by creating some small friction or making a big change, or having patience and faith. And we might use some of these techniques for certain things, and others for others. We might use combinations of these as well. So questions, comments, additions, subtractions, corrections, chastisements? Yes, Prabhu. And nice to see you. And nice to see you.
The question is actually, for example, we try to see something spiritual. For example, on TV I am watching some kirtan or something, watching the kirtan, and then also program. And we change the channel and it's a cricket match, and we become busy in the cricket. Or we try to watch hear some kirtan, we are enjoying the kirtan. After the kirtan gets over, we go to some film song. So, or go watch some movie on Netflix. So,
or do some what?
Watch a movie or something. So how to prevent us from going overboard? We, for example, we try to be fit. As devotees, we try to not have fitness. Then we go to the gym and we try to become...
That was my whole class, Prabhu. I always get amused when someone asks me the question about the whole content of the class. And then I'm thinking, was I a really bad teacher here? Yes, what you're pointing out is exactly the problem for which I gave this class. Yes. We're in the kirtan and we're like, yay, kirtan, and then, oh, cricket match. Yeah. So what can we do? Sadhu Sangha. Associate with devotees. Have better association. Remember that I'm a soul. I'm not this body, I'm not this mind. Let me do things that are about me. Let me not put my money in the wrong bank account. Then asking, why am I watching this cricket match? What rasa am I trying to get out of it? Generally, watching sports, we're looking for anger. and maybe some chivalry, but not much chivalry because we're not playing the sports. If you're playing the sports, you're usually trying to enjoy chivalry. But if you're just watching the sports, it's usually anger and some disgust. So, all right, is there something I could meditate on instead? Could I meditate on maybe Hanuman burning Lanka? What could I meditate on? Could I meditate on Arjuna going after Jayadratha? Those are anger, that's spiritual anger stuff. Is there something I could absorb myself in that will give me the same rasa I'm trying to get from this? When we're watching a cricket match, we want some kind of rasa. Or maybe you're watching a cricket match just because life is hard and you're just trying to zone out and be nowhere. And just put your brain on hold for a while. So then we're looking for peace. Yeah? Okay, well, what Leela could I meditate on that's peaceful? Maybe Mahavishnu lying in the causal ocean, breathing out universes. Okay? Then detachment. Seeing that, this is just the influence of Rajagun. Cricket matches, I think, Rajagun, Tamagun. Now, if you're going to go play cricket to get exercise, that's another thing. That's a completely different thing than just sitting there like a potato watching somebody else get exercise and imagining that you're getting the exercise by watching them. And then detachment, it's just, you just see, my inclination for this is Rajagun, Tamagun. I don't hate it, but I don't get into it. Oh, that's what it is. Hi, Mr. Rajagun. Hi, Mr. Tamagun. Roger and Thomas, Hi, Roger. Hi, Thomas. There you go. Spiritual hobbies and recreation. Have something better to do. Have something that's more engaging, that's more enjoyable, where you're not going to be spacing out on cricket matches because you're going to be busy doing that other thing. I mean, if I have interesting projects that I'm excited about and that I want to do, then, I'm not personally interested in cricket matches, but then the cricket matches are not going to be interesting to me. I've got something else that's interesting. And especially having something where you can't be watching the cricket match. So, you're going to get together with devotees to do something, like my son and daughter-in-law who get their kids out of the house. So, if I'm going to know, well, this is when I'm going to watch a cricket match, have something else planned where you can't be doing both at the same time. And form new habits. Start noticing, when do I watch the cricket matches? Under what circumstances? Is it when I'm really tired? Is it when I'm really bored? Is it when I'm really upset about something? What is inducing me to do this? And then see if you can attach a new habit to that cue. Find something new that when you're bored or you're sad or you're upset or something that you'll do. And then rewarding small steps. Hey, this time I just watched the kirtan and didn't switch the channel. Woohoo! Yay, me. And even if you do it the next day, that's all right. Yeah, I did it one day. Yay, me. Okay, today I didn't do so well. All right. The child that falls down, and they don't cry when they fall down. They just don't. They get back up again, and they try to walk again. Little kids sometimes get bruises from bumping into things and falling on things, and they just keep going. And celebrate any kind of small wins. You can put the behavior on cue. You can say, okay, I will allow myself to watch a cricket match for 1 hour a week at this time. And that's all. And then when you want to switch from the kirtan to the cricket match, you tell your mind, you can watch the cricket match at this time, but not now. Take a vow. Say, I'm not going to watch any cricket matches for the next 3 days. Every time I want to watch, that also. And keep a chart of it. You can have a buddy, an accountability buddy. We're going to go on a cricket fast. How'd you doing on your cricket fast? Destroy the situation. Cancel your subscription to, what is it? What is that sports ESPN? Where? Cancel your subscription to the sports network. Save yourself some money while you're doing it. Just don't have a subscription to the thing. You know, you can also set up your internet so certain sites won't open. Or putting it on queue, you can set it up so they won't open at certain times. And if it's a really bad thing, you know, maybe keep your set locked up in another room or something. You can only get to it at certain times if it's really like extreme. I mean, an extreme thing would be to move to the farm in Hungary where they don't have any electricity. They told me there, they said, we could have wind power, but we don't want people to have electricity. So that's kind of extreme. Of course, people don't last there very long. And as I say, the problem is with that kind of an extreme thing is you also lose benefits. That's the problem with that. And then be patient. That's another thing. Maybe I'm struggling with cricket matches right now, but I'm going to keep chanting and I'm going to keep reading. And I'm going to have the confidence that the time will come when I look at the cricket match and go, I don't think so. All right? Just took your thing and plugged it into the whole thing. Yes. I hope you're not going to ask me the same question all over again. Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Because of the, can you put that microphone a little closer?
Sometimes because of you have to get initiation, you have to read this much of time, or you have a class of Bhagavad Gita, then we will read. But we don't read like that. So we need encouragement.
It's not who's my guru. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. So you want to do things with more relish? Okay, but that is intention. So in Manashiksha, have I taught Manashiksha here? Did I teach it here a long time ago? Probably in 2016 when I was here with Tarini, my granddaughter. So Raghunath Das Goswami says to do 5 things every day as if you're drinking 5 different kinds of nectar. But that we're, as sadhakas, it means to make an effort to do that. Don't just say, well, it's just not happening naturally, and that's just like, sadhana bhakti means you're making an effort. So he says to hear divine pastimes like you're drinking nectar, to offer obeisances like you're drinking nectar, to worship like you're drinking nectar. And maybe you don't like nectar, pick something else. Like you're eating your favorite sweet ball. Like you're swimming in your favorite place on a hot day. Like you're meeting your favorite friend. I don't know, something that you really like. That you're watching your favorite cricket team. Something that you really like. And you just make a determination. Let me try my best to read the Bhagavad Gita as if I were drinking the best mango nectar. Or eating the best rasgulla. Or seeing my best friend. And then celebrate the times when you do that. So one of them is offering obeisances. Now, I don't remember every time, but I try to remember most of the time. To first of all think about what I'm saying, not Namam Vishnu, but what did I say? I don't know. Something. But to think about it. It's hard to do that with something you do repeatedly. The mind blanks out, you know. What am I saying? I'm offering my obeisances to Prabhupada, who's at the feet of very dear to Krishna in this world, who's a servant of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who's trying to conquer impersonalism and voidism and deliver the Western countries. To meditate on that and meditate on it as if I am drinking nectar. To try to have an emotional experience. as if I'm doing something that's very tasty. And I'd say 50 to 80% of the time I can do that. Sometimes I still space out, just sometimes that happens. But I don't beat myself up for that. Then I'm like, okay, lost that chance, but there will be another one. I'll have another time. I'm going to offer obeisances, and I'm going to, oh yeah. Or sometimes I'm halfway through and I'm like, nectar, 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 drink the nectar. Right. So you make this sankalpa. I'm opening up the Bhagavad Gita. Let me see if I can read the Bhagavad Gita like that. Not to pass an exam, not to get initiation, not like that. I mean, that's better than nothing, but not much better than nothing, because it's not a mechanical process. And how does Krishna feel? I'm reading your book because I have to. I don't want to. They told me I have to. I want to be a devotee, and they told me I have to get initiation. To get initiation, I have to read this book of yours. So I'm just going to do it. What do you feel, Right? I mean, I know how happy I feel when people like the books that I've written. People write me a note, I just finished your career Dharma book. It's wonderful. I'm recommending it to everyone. I enjoyed it so much. I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I could make someone happy. I'm sure Krishna feels the same way. Krishna, I just read what you said, and it just filled me with, and he's like, wow. Would you tell other people? I mean, then I say to people, would you write a review? So Krishna's like, would you tell somebody else? I mean, other ways to read like you're drinking nectar, think about what you're reading. Take some notes, talk to someone else about it. Make a plan for how I can see this in my life today. Some kind of application. Don't just read to read. Is that helpful? Is that all right? Okay, we should probably stop now. It's after 9. So thank you very much. So anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas in the Shastra. Anything bad is my responsibility. Please either correct or ignore the bad and take the good. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.